New today, the White House again defending the president's decision to withdraw troops from northern Syria. The defense secretary announced those troops will not be returning home as the president promised. Instead, the troops will go to Iraq. Here is the acting chief of staff.
Well, they will eventually. I think clearly, the quickest way to get them out of danger was to get them into Iraq. This nonsense about how the president supposedly green-lighted this invasion. Nothing could be further from the truth.
All right, let's discuss with one of the House Democrats with national security experience who also supports the impeachment inquiry, Congressman Gil Cisneros, a Democrat from California. He is a Navy veteran and a member of the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, thank you for joining me. So is Mick Mulvaney right when he says that the safest way to withdraw troops from Syria is to deploy them to Iraq?
Well, this just shows how out of touch the president is with his own administration, and you have to wonder if he really knows what's going on. He's telling us he's taking the troops out of Syria so he can bring them back home, but the plan all along was to really put them into Iraq, and that was something that the Secretary of Defense, the acting Secretary of Defense, discussed with us earlier this week at the House Armed Services Committee about how those troops weren't really going home, they were going to Iraq.
Well, what's your reaction to Mulvaney's claim that the president didn't really give the green light to Turkey to invade Syria?
Well, I think you can see on a bipartisan basis that everybody is upset with the administration's position on this. It pretty much by removing those troops from the border, from the Syrian-Turkish border, he pretty much did green light the Turkish army, Turkey, to come into Syria and really set forth this whole process that just made Syria a lot more volatile than it already had been. Our U.S. troops there were there protecting, keeping some stability there in this horrible situation that's been going on there, the fighting between the SDF, the Syrian forces, and right now by removing those troops out of there, it's really just kind of put it into a more volatile situation. Turkey now has an established buffer there, the 20-mile buffer that we pretty much gave them, and so, okay, you're fine to have. Turkey has said they gotten everything out that they wanted out of this situation, that the supposedly ceasefire that the vice president and the secretary of state went over there to negotiate. The Russia and the Assad Syrian forces have now moved over into the SDF occupied territory. So the Russians and the Syrians got what they wanted. The only people that are dissatisfied are the Kurdish forces that were our allies that we had been fighting with to defeat ISIS. They're the only ones that are now put in a situation where I feel that eventually the Assad and the Syrian forces, with the backing of Russia, are going to turn on them eventually and go after them.
I want to play for you something that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said this morning, pointing to the ceasefire deal that the administration reached with Turkey, which both sides in the conflict have accused each other of violating.
Can you assure the Kurdish people and the president's allies in Congress that you will not be party to ethnic cleansing?
In that Turkish-controlled space, that there wouldn't be attacks on minorities, that this was about getting a ceasefire, a secure area, and that this, in fact, will save lives.
Congressman, are you satisfied with that response? What can you do about it there in Congress?
No, I'm not satisfied at all with that response. We know the Turks don't want the Kurds on the Turkish border there. They wanted to remove them from the part that was actually their land where they had been living. They moved them out of this area. The Kurds are not happy about that. They had to turn to our enemies, the Russians, the Iranians, and the Assad-backed Syrian forces. And now we're in a situation where they have moved into the former SDF occupied territory, and now if there's going to be any ethnic cleansing, the Turks don't need to do it, right? They have the Assad forces that are going to be able to go after the Kurds and wipe them out with the backing of Russia and Iran. This has created a more volatile situation. It really is not what America, it's not what I would have done. When I was serving in the United States Navy, we worked with our allies, we supported our allies, we didn't turn our backs on them, we didn't stab them in the back, as the Kurds are saying that we did. We created a more volatile situation. The president created this situation, and now he's trying to claim victory by saying he solved it. You can't claim victory by trying to end something that you went out there and did.
California Congressman Cisneros.